My name's Ian Gordon. I'm an ex-ghillie, started fishing for salmon aged 8. I currently run a company called Spey Online where we organise salmon fishing trips all over the world and casting instruction.
My name's Tony Black. I'm a ghillie at Murthley and Strathbran Estates. I started as a ghillie in 1986 at Dunkeld House, where I was for 4 years before coming to my present job at Murthley.
I'm Sandy McIntosh. I'm a ghillie on the River Erne. I started my career in 1966 when I was aged 20, when I went to ghillie and work on the River Borgie in Sutherland and had my first salmon then. From then I went on to work in Lewis and several of the estates there, including the prestigious Grimmerster. But in the meantime I've been ghillieing on the Tay and fished a lot of rivers throughout Scotland for salmon. I'm ghillie on the River Erne and have been there for the last 22 years.
Hello, I'm Grant Kelly. I have been fishing since the age of 12 with a real passion for it, so it's 51 years I've been fishing for salmon.
We're down here on the mighty Tay today. I've come down from a much better river, it has to be said, the Spey. I'm not sure these guys would maybe agree with that, but I've come down from the Spey this morning to interview a group of friends and colleagues, all of which have been ghillies here for like all their life. I mean, it's an amazing river, and incredible that you can have people here that are working from a young age. Tony, when did you start? How old were you?
When did I start ghillieing? I started in 1986.
1986.
Dunkeld House.
So you must have only been about 5 then.
About then.
Did you get that job straight for the paper?
Straight for school.
Right, okay.
Aye.
So that was in Murthley?
No, that was Dunkeld House.
Okay.
Started there 4 years there and then shifted to Dunkeld House in
Okay.
1989.
So you went down to Murthley in 1989?
Yeah.
And what kind of changes have you seen for that time, Tony?
Oh gee, there's lots.
To that to this?
Lots. You used to have parties for a full week.
Was that parties, like drinking parties? Or
Aye,
drinking
both.
parties?
Both.
Aye.
Both. Aye, no, you used to have, you had your party would arrive for a full week fishing. That never really changed for a number of years. And now your daylights.
Okay.
Just fill in.
And Sandy, you're in the Erne, which is a big tributary of the Tay. Tell us a wee bit about the Erne.
Well, we fall under the auspices of the Tay Board. It's a smaller river. I've been ghillie on Kinkell for 22 years now, and we too have noticed a difference. When I came first, we had parties of people coming from about August onwards, and the same parties would turn up every year, and they would be up for a week or a fortnight. And in those days, because the fishing was so desirable, we persuaded them to take a week in the spring if they wanted to try autumn weeks. But that's largely gone. Their sons took over the lets and so forth. But modern man is so busy that he spends most of his lunchtime with a tablet in front of him, and he's going down the pool and he's got the 6 crescents on his ears, and when the fish leaks he's got to mind whether he's going to listen to the phone or play the fish, and he usually drops the fish and the phone, but I could have told him so. But that's the way it is now. And as Tony was saying, it's much more stop and go. We take people on a daily basis. It's a lot better than nothing, but it's not as it used to be. I'm always minded of what I say at this stage, that when the world was falling apart just before the Second World War, Neville Chamberlain absented himself from Downing Street for a fortnight to go and fish the Dee, and he was not to be disturbed under any circumstances. The most meanest ordinary person has got to have a mobile phone, so you can contact it 24/7 these days.
Sure.
And I think we're slaves to that. So.
We are. It's not the best, I have to say. And personally, I don't like it at all. I see younger ghillies actually on it all the time, and it really frustrates me, that one. Grant, what about you? The Erich, I believe. You're the main man up there, eh?
Well, I spent a lot of time up there. Probably started fishing there when I was 12. Salmon caught my eye at that age. We went to the hatchery and
It's like inside the dam and all the rest of it.
Tell us a wee bit about the Ericht and the type of fishing that you were doing on there when you started up.
When I
Are
started,
you allowed to say that? You know?
yeah, well, I suppose everybody did at some point. I would spin for salmon, shrimping used to happen. Now it's the angling club which I represent is fly only.
Okay. Oh, and the Ericht as well.
Yeah, we're fly only on the Eric, the angling club.
Yeah. And do you think? I mean, I know it's a kind of contentious thing, but do you think that the fly only thing is a good thing for a river of your size?
I think so. I think there's more chance of catching fish on the fly because you're not moving it constantly and spinning over it.
Right.
So it's a smaller river compared to what we have here.
What about yourself, Tony? With regard the fly spinning thing?
Spin to win.
Spin to win.
Yeah.
That's it. Spin to win.
Spin to win.
I like.
You need on big river like the Tay here. You need to do every legal method.
That's it. It's a big
Yeah.
river. It's a big river, and you need to cover the
Absolutely.
river, and that's so that
Harlan.
everything at your mercy.
Absolutely. Just to keep your guests coming back. you know.
Absolutely, and that is the way it is. And do you think historically that's always been the case on the main part of the Tay, Tony?
Well, when I first started Gillian, you'd set up. If you had 6 rods fishing, you'd set up 6 spinning rods,
Okay.
regardless of time of year.
Yeah.
And there might be an odd fly rod. And I think the only fly rod that would be on a rod rack on my beat would have been mine.
Well, it's really interesting because everybody talks about the Spey as being this fly fishing
Yeah.
river. It was exactly the same at that time. I can assure you. It was exactly the same.
The
at
D
that
as
time.
well.
Everything was spinning, and it kind of frustrates me a wee bit, this anti-spinning thing.
Yeah.
What about yourself, Sandy?
Well, we have a smaller river, and luckily where I fish, we've got a good lot of gradient and a lot of pools have been built over the years, and it takes the fly very well. It's not as though the fish are out of reach by any means. There's good wading in it, and we have gentlemen at advanced years able to wade our pools and cover the water with a fly. We do spin. We used to spin a lot more, but with us being a Category 3 river and statutory catch and release, you damage the fish less with a fly usually than some of the multi-tackle baits that are in use.
Do you think, because it is a wee bit contentious, do you think that, you said multi-hook baits, do you think if you were fishing or spinning a bait with just a single hook, double hook, do you think that would make any difference?
Well, they do a lot of that in the States and Canada,
Yes.
and they don't seem to lose any more fish, so I think it's a matter of education to some degree.
Yes.
We certainly supply baits if you don't have, if you have too many trebles on, and people use them and find that they still land fish.
Yeah. What about you, Tony? What was your thought about that type of like multi-hook, like
multi-hook
type
stuff,
thing?
yeah. No, one treble.
One treble.
One treble. And I don't go with this, you have to fish single hooks for catch and release. We've put back thousands of fish using big trebles,
Yes,
you know, 1-0 trebles on a kyna. I've never had to kill a fish, not one, but I've killed lots on the fly.
Yes.
Because it takes it halfway down the throat, you know.
Exactly the same experience as that.
Yeah,
Exactly the same.
and especially in the spring.
Aye.
You know.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Sure. What about yourself?
Yeah, well, because we're a fly only, we're actually pretty good. We're multi-hook lures, we bang them on our river
Yeah.
because it's too small and just do a lot of damage. So some of the guys that fish the fly now, they're all on
Single hooks.
Yeah.
Single hooks.
Well, the biggest fish that came off the river last year, 27 pounds on a big single.
Yeah.
On a fly. So that, you know.
So, guys, what about the population of fish? Because I mean, there's a big thing about the decline of salmon right now, and I mean everyone's talking about it in the business, you know, about the overall decline. So, I mean, give me an idea. I mean, I would have loved to have talked to George about this one because I remember him telling me a story which I will tell on his behalf. But for yourself, Tony, what kind of size would you have thought the population of salmon would have been compared to now, back when you started? You started in 85, eh?
Yeah, well, Gillian in 86,
Yeah.
but I can go way back before that. As a kid, walking down the river in well, November, December time, dead fish,
Yeah.
you know, the spawned,
Absolutely.
diseased ones, kelps, lots of them. I used to go down my wee gaff and gaff them out and have piles of them and sit and look. I used to sit and look at them, and then my granddad would say, right, Mum, we'll go for a walk. This was on Kinnaird, where I was brought up. And I used to go for a walk down the bank, and granddad would look down at me. I would never make eye contact. I wonder what would do that. And he'd be looking down at me, waiting for a reaction at this pile of fish. Because I used to gather them all up. And, huge things. There was just so many salmon. You just never thought we were going to
No, it would
run
have
out
been-
the way they have.
Definitely. Yeah.
Aye.
What about yourself, Sandy? You thinking the same thing?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
We're about a third of what you used to get, even 7 or 8 years ago.
That's cold.
That's the catch. And in ideal conditions, you'd see the groups of fish coming up. You go to the river in good nick and go out, and you hardly see a fish. You've got to G yourself up in the hope that there are fish there, as indeed there are, but they're nothing like as plentiful. And as was mentioned previously, if the number of casualties and on the banks is any indication of what's there, it's a pretty sad story. We had a lady who used to walk her sausage dogs up and down the river, and she would complain to me, Mr. McIntosh, you have to do something about all these dead fish because my dogs gorge them. Then they come up to my cottage and they puke up over my Axminsters. Very sorry about that, but I don't have enough time to do that. But, we don't have that problem now.
Well, that's right. No.
We had an interesting one on the back of that story at McIntosh on the Spey. Exactly the same thing. That's exactly the same thing. And our boss made us go out and actually bury them.
Yeah.
And we would bury them on a daily basis.
Yes.
You would go down to
Yeah,
the
yeah,
tail of the
yeah,
boat,
yeah.
bury all these fish.
Yeah.
And then you'd come back the next day and there would be as many
Yeah,
fish
yeah,
there again the
yeah,
next
yeah,
day.
yeah.
It was really smelly. And I remember, we're dog people, aren't we?
Yeah.
And aye, exactly the same. No. Perfectly trained dogs. Yeah. So when I talk about the population of the Tay, I always, sadly we've not got George Wace today, but I'm going to quote this quote that he gave me, that I've quoted many times before. And he said that in 1869, you'll maybe know that this figure's right, Tony, but in 1969 he told me that the Tay, the number of fish caught on the River Tay was 128,000 fish.
103,000 caught in the nets.
That's it. 103,000 caught in the nets, and then 26,000 caught by rod and line. He also told me
Declared.
declared.
Both.
Yeah.
Counts.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there would have been 1 or 2 that wouldn't have been declared. I'm sure around that time as well. But what he said to me was that he reckoned that year that there was just as many fish in the river, still in the river.
Oh yeah.
So that would have made the count of fish on the River Tay. Sandy, would you agree? You remember back to that time? You just look like a young laddie to me.
That's very nice. I keep on taking the pills. I spent 2 seasons as a netsman on one of the netting stations, and it was just about that time.
Yes.
And the numbers of fish were phenomenal. There were 36 commercial netting stations run by the Tay Salmon Fishery Company, and we would set about getting them out. You'd have a shift of 5 hours and you'd put 11 or 12 shots in. If there's a shoal of fish in front of you, you'd start to get them straight away, and by the end of your shift, you'd got them all. You got them all, and they would go away down to Billingsgate and so forth. And there were plenty of fish. What there also wasn't at that time were any seals. Our gaffer, like every gaffer, was issued with a Lee Enfield 303 rifle, and if a seal was daft enough to stick its head above the surface, a shell came towards it straight away. And a seal was a very rare thing in those days. That, unfortunately, isn't the case now, and they come up the river.
Yeah.
We are 16 miles from the sea, and the fish are spawning on the gravel at the bridge there, and the seals are in amongst them. And you have to stand idly by and let them get on with it.
But I think as well, we're doing so much for conservation with salmon now, and to have these seals in the river at a time when we know the population is nothing remotely like as it once was. In fact, the population is at a dire level as far as I would be concerned.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Yes. And to have an increase in population of seals at this moment in time, so the balance is just so wrong, you know. And that's why I think we really need to address this predation problem. And speaking about predation, guys, I'm one of these lads that thinks that goosander is my public enemy number one to the salmon for me. Goosander. I never liked goosander because we know that there were no goosanders. 1880, there was none in the UK, absolutely none. So all our salmon have evolved without that amazing predator. So tell me about your experiences with them in the Tay. Have you got a lot of them? No?
Yeah, we have a few. Sometimes they don't thrive very well in some areas, but we won't go into that in particular.
I obviously have a license for them.
Absolutely,
That's just the way it goes.
But we're not very good at counting sometimes. But you can see why it's needed. If you get one of these, and same with the cormorants and the goosies, you open their stomach and it's like John West sardine tests. And particularly when the smolts are going down, it's crammed full of them. Now that's your future.
That's it.
Some of them are quite good for fly tying purposes, but that's about the only good thing we can say about them. But there are far too many of them. There were rare things a while ago, but there's flocks of them now. Very good mothers. You only have to look at them in a bad way and they discern that you're giving them the evil eye, they scatter away. But sometimes there are ways of defeating them.
I've seen the same as well. Because they're not a long-term indigenous bird, then they've not got a specialised natural predator.
No.
That's why I believe in the UK here that we have big families of them.
Yes.
You know, so she'll raise, like if she lays 13 eggs, she'll raise 13 wings, you know, every single time. And then if something happens to one of her pals, she'll actually adopt their ones as well. It's incredible.
They have 2 dozen to look after sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. So I think they become a massive problem, personally for me. And what's your experience, Carl?
We have quite a lot on our river. I mean, the largest number I've counted in a group, and this is Perthshire, I think it was 4 Adam, 111.
111 goosanders.
During the smoke drop, 111, and it was 2 groups joined and fished all the way down the Tay.
Again, for me, if you think that these birds are going to eat, and we can be conservative, it's like 20 fish every day each. Easy.
And it's not just par.
You start making that calculation as to the damage that we're doing here, and it's colossal. I remember doing it, and it was millions of fish that were eaten across the board. So no, it is a big thing. I think predation, certainly up in the Spey,
everywhere.
Exactly the same.
Seals is a big one. Now, you're eating your smokes going out, your adults coming back.
Yeah. But again,
they went from 40,000 in 1978 down the British Isles to what now, 400,000?
So they're saying. Some people argue about the numbers, but one thing we do know is that the population has went like this. I mean, they were probably persecuted by the whalers up until the 40s, and then
the netsmen as well. There was 10 men employed in the Tay estuary, and all they'd done was cull seals and cormorants, goosanders.
As far as all that said, you know, as far as the economy of salmon fishing is concerned, guys, do you know any study done in the Tay that's, you know?
Oh no, it wasn't.
And the valleys.
Yes. Yeah. What is salmon fishing on the Tay worth to the local economy? Do you know?
Something like 15 million.
Yeah.
I have quoted, yeah.
Well, I mean, I remember doing something with the Scottish Government when some years back. They were doing a study of the decline of salmon, and I remember the figure for overall for Scotland was like 100 and what was it now? It was £80 million.
72
That's
million in 1986.
Mhm.
Was
That's right.
done
That's
in
right.
that
That's
Mackay
right.
report.
Yes. And
There
then
was a study,
that went up to 2003. It was what was it, 130 million, and now 20 years later, it's back down to 80 million.
Yeah.
And so that sets a trend, you know, and I think it's a worrying.
Well, the price of fishing's come down
It has.
to attract
Yeah.
people to come and fish or to come for a day out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so I think from a Gillian point of view, we're lucky that the people that haven't fished long, that are just starting out, accept salmon fishing for what it is.
Yes. Yes.
You
Yeah.
know? And if they see 2 or 3 fish, that's a lot of fish.
Uh-huh.
That's a lot of fish for them, and we're sitting there all glum because we've only seen a couple or 3, you know.
I got excited.
But that's where I think it's always good, Tony, to have a turnover of younger people and younger
Absolutely.
Gillies,
Oh,
because it brings
absolutely.
enthusiasm
Yeah,
to the job.
yeah.
And it's just one of that things. Speaking about clientele,
Mm-hmm.
so how's that changed over the period that you've been fishing, Tony?
Oh, gee, I don't know.
So, I mean, for instance, when I started, we had just Sir David's guests for most of the year. It was just him and his family came and his friends, and that was it. There was no like paying guests or any of that in the main part of the season, and it was all like majors and generals.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. There was a
Yeah.
lot of that. But they're still not as high ranking as Ghillie. Eh?
No, they're definitely
No.
not. He's a field marshal of a lot of them.
Oh, I've had quite a lot of them, and that's what I tell them. I just tell them that's not a very high ranked general. What do you mean, Tony? That's quite a high rank. I says, well, it's not as high as Ghillie.
What about you?
Well, I had a wee streak when I was, before I came to work on the Tay and the Erne, and I gillied on the Grimmerstad for a while. In the summertime, I would get there about late May and stay till the season ended. And the syndicate of about 23 members were all very well to do, and you addressed them as a matter of course, and their associates as my lord, because 19 times out of 20, that's exactly what they were.
Yes.
And that was very much old style and very proper. They would turn up at times a very short day, and a lot of the time was spent in travelling. But the runs of fish were so enormous that it made no difference. I remember the first time I went out with a guest, he had 16 fish for his day, and he fished about 3 hours. The shoals of grouse were phenomenal. They turned the water black, and some of them were a bit naughty now and then. And I remember Lord Strathmore, Fergus Bowes line, was late turning up for supper one night because he was fishing the kelp pool and wanted to get his 100th sea trout in a day. He'd not done that before, and he was late. But he was carpeted by the secretary of the syndicate, Colonel Bradford, and he was fined a case of Margot to just put him right, and that went to the estate sellers. But you had to turn up in your dicky wool by a certain time, but it was all old style. I think it's relaxed quite a wee bit now, but the runs of fish are much diminished. There is, I still think, and certainly was, a fish farm in Loch Roag, and that put an end to the abundance of salmon on the Grimmerstad. It was a bit better this last year, but a pale shadow of what it used to.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal.
Yes.
Spot.
Yes. That's really interesting. I'm a great believer in hatcheries myself, you know, and it's something that I know that in certain size of rivers most definitely works in an angling sense, no question that it does. I think there's some people that think it might do damage to the stock and whatever. On your river, Grant, what's the feeling that you have on that?
Well, we're definitely down on we used to see steady runs of fish. I always took my week's holiday because I'm a working person.
Yeah.
It was always the last week in April. You could guarantee there was good runs of fish would come in.
Yeah.
Didn't even an awful lot of water, but they would appear and they were fresh, lovely to see. Now the runs have become sporadic. We could have good water and not see fish. And we don't understand why. We have a lot of different things going on in our rivers compared to what body of the Tay.
Do you think that that's just subsequent of the fact that there's just not so many fish there, or do you think they're coming at a different time? Some people think that the fish come at a different time.
I've seen changes, yes.
Yeah.
We always used to get fish in February, and they were generally teeners.
Yes.
March were smaller fish, and then into April the size would start to increase till you got into the last week of April, the first week of May. We would see good sized fish.
Yeah.
Now we're getting 2C winter fish in June.
Yeah, Tuesday was the
June. And we get lifted water. And these are fast travelling fish.
Yes.
Because the temperatures are right by then. But there's been changes. February fish was always interesting. We've even had them on the opening days.
Yeah.
15th of January.
They were bigger fish.
Oh yeah, well fed.
Proper
Some
springers.
Yeah, we used to get 3C winners in the lower part there.
Yeah. What about you, Tony? Have you seen the changes there? And what about that? Because I'm interested in that the Eric's got these big fish in February, or had the big fish in February. Was that the same for the main stem of the river?
Aye, there was always good fish in the start of the season, was January, February. You always got these high teens, 20, a lot of 20 pounders. This is going way back, you know. I remember in 1988. It'd be 1988. 1988 at Dunkeld House. The first 5 fish I got averaged 20.5 pounds. The biggest one was only 22, but they were all at 20.5, 21.5, 21.5, 22, and I got 20. That was the first 5 fish, and then we got an 8 pounder.
Minimum.
And then the next one was an 18. And then after that, I can't really remember. But that was by the end of January.
I always just think of the big picture. When I hear stories like that, I just think of the big picture, and I think, what is that worth in today's value? I mean, because my business revolves around that, and it's. I mean, if you could offer someone the potential of that type of fishing, it would have been. The value of that now is through the roof. You cannot believe.
You used to go out in January and you always believed you were going to get a fish, somebody would get one. Not every day,
sure,
but you would still have that belief today would be the day.
Yes. That's right.
And then February for some reason would quieten off a wee bit, because I think you had these fish that came in and we caught the following year's fish we had caught in October some years.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And if our season had went on through November, we would have been catching these fish. So these fish are already in the river. Some people call them winter fish, whatever, you know. So you would have them already in the river. You would catch them through your first couple of weeks of the season, and then it would sort of quieten off a wee bit. And then you'd come into March, and then it was just
fish were coming in then.
Every day you were going to get fish. You know, if you didn't get one, you were disappointed. You know?
That winter fish
are great fish.
Superb. Absolutely the best. And it's interesting again, we'll talk about the economic value of these fish, because I have been lucky enough to fish up in Pinoy in north of Russia, and they have fish called Osenka fish, so they're ice fish they call them, and so they come in sort of late August, but September's quite good up to about mid-October, and then they sit there under the ice, and then they come out again. So these fish will be exactly the same, exactly the same. You know, they're going to spawn the following year. So have you seen when talking about the runs of fish, and you're in the Erin cycle,
Yeah.
the Erin, as far as I remember, was a back end river.
Yes,
is that right?
it is to some extent. It's not so marked, but there are still a few greybacks going about. Not as many as we used to have, but we had 3 or 4, no, a little longer than that. We had a happy occasion when 2 or 3 of them made themselves available to us, and these are fish 30 pound plus, brand new, coincidentally cockfish, and quite a battle dealing with them.
Yes.
Now that's the fish of a lifetime for a lot of folk, I remember fishing with Dunk Glass, the redoubtable Dunk Glass, a legendary Sloan lunchtime, on Bun Bay, and he was commercial, shall we say. We fished very, very hard and fished into the darkness. You'd start in the darkness with torches and fish there, and his target at the back end was always at least 20, and we finished with 19, and then he hooked this thing in the darkness. We had several good fish, but this was just about 20 pound brand new, and we looked at it and he said, that's not going to spawn this year. It was brand new, boom like that. That's chugging up to Loch Tay. It'll spawn in about 13 months' time.
Yes.
And you know, the most perfect fish you could get.
Yes.
But there are these, you know, the vestiges. We had 1 or 2 in the last week of the season this year, quite large fish, fresh run, and nice to see them. But no matter what time of the year you get these fish, I remember about 5 springs ago, this wee party came, 2 brothers and 1 of their sons, and the wee laddie went up to fish one of the pools, and 15 minutes into his salmon career he hooked this thing. With little assistance from his dad, he landed it, and there's a photograph of him in the hut with this fish being released in excess of 20 pound springer in the month of April. And I said to him afterwards, I said, "No, I think we ought to quit now, because if you continue this arcane activity, you will discover what you've achieved today, and the chances of repeating it anytime sooner are remote." I've never seen him again. You know, so he took that aboard.
What about yourselves, guys? Have you got any similar sort of stories, youngsters? Funny ones? I'm going to get you thinking time.
He had an 8-year-old and his father took him fishing. It was a couple of years ago, and the river was the right height, and so they were spinning allowed it. This young lad gets this thing and shouts. He's never been fishing before in his life. Spent most of the time picking roots off the trees, and he wanted a 7-pounder. His first day fishing, and he got so enthusiastic about the joined the club and all that. Just, oh Dad, I want to do this, and we see him every year now. So that was the trigger for him.
It's given the youngsters a chance to get out there when there's 1 or 2 fish around, you know. Absolutely, and it was great. I think in the past, guys, it was magical when we had all these fish jumping about, because that created so much interest in fishing. The young laddies, I know myself. It was, you were getting down. No, you can't. No, you could not. It was just so exciting.
Half my time standing on the bridge and watching the fish run over the weir. I can do that for hours, the same as I can at the end of the year when they're spawning. I can stand and watch it for hours.
I think the spawning fish are interesting as well, Nick. It's nice now that we've got technology like this. We can take the youngsters, schools, whatever, to the spawning burns and show them spawning fish and talk through the story. It's a great time when you're standing watching. I think standing watching fish spawning to talk the next generation of potential fishers through the whole life cycle of the salmon. It's great. I'm going to ask you guys about run timings. And so, have you noted in the past, 10 years, a change in the pattern of when the main lot of fish come into the river?
Yeah, I've seen changes.
Yeah.
Say the slow build up, but always the peak month was April on the Erich, certainly.
Yeah.
If we had water.
So it was a spring river that?
Spring and grills.
Okay.
Normal grill runs they used to get. I mean, it was so good, the locals used to stand on the runs into the pools with landing nets. There were so many. the runs have changed. They say they become sporadic. We've now got them coming into May and June. They're certainly well fed fish.
That's what I'm thinking.
But there's less of them.
Yeah. What's you doing?
April, May, June
That's it.
for us, yeah.
Yep.
July, a few grills.
And no back end fish though. Yeah.
Not to speak of, no. We got one in the last week of the season this year. Absolute spanker, 15 pounder, and that was it. That was it. Silver ones for a
Yeah.
cover, you know.
I mean, the reason for the question was that Scotland was got a fantastically long season. We can fish for salmon for opens and here. Aye, absolutely. Helmsdale, yeah. Aye. So from there all the way right to the end of November in some places. So I'm not sure what's your thoughts on fishing as late as that, Tony. I mean, I know we're on the Tay here.
No, I think we're fine here. I think we're fine on the Tay. And you, if you start shortening seasons, from a Gillian point of view, starts affecting jobs.
Of course.
If you cut our season back to August or something, and you'd have a lot of part-time gillies.
I think it's definitely my experience of legislation in any shape or form. If you want to change it, it's really difficult to change it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's just at a local level for people to adapt to what's happening at that particular moment in time. I think anyway.
I think some of the upper tributaries, particularly closer to spawning beds, I would be in favour personally of shutting them 2 to 3 weeks early. Leave the fish alone.
Yeah.
They're there, they're not going anywhere else.
When they've made it there,
yes.
You know they're going to spawn there.
Chasing them up and down
That's I think you're right, you know. But that management can be done at a local level. You know? It doesn't need government to step in. It should never need government to do that. You know? Speaking about government, there's another little point that water abstraction on the Spey is an issue. You know, it's an issue in the upper part of the Spey, and interestingly, it affects the Tay as well. You know, by the way that the whole thing works. But I'm not talking about the Spey. I want it from you guys' perspective. And do you think it's made a big difference when you have these abstraction schemes and we don't have enough water running down through the rivers? Tell me a wee bit more about the Tay system. Grant, I'm looking at you.
I know, yeah. And this is an ongoing thing. We've certainly been fighting for a long time to re-water 2.5, 3 mile section of the area.
Yes.
And it's over abstraction to work a turbine, a fish farm. So we are in the process through the different system to try and highlight this. I think SEPA, and this is my policy, and I don't like talking politics and all this, but I don't honestly think we're fit for purpose. That's my words.
I would say that you're close there, definitely. It's certainly close to my own thoughts on it.
Yeah. So we have a drastic problem in Blairberry. It's been going on a long time. Fish farm itself, we know the history and what it's capable of doing and what it is doing to our smoke. So we're working to rectify it. So
do you know just how much water they're taking out as a whole to the river system? How much they're taking out?
Well,
so are they taking 10%, 20%? Or are they taking?
If we have a dry, almost dry riverbed for 2 miles, that tells you they're taking all of it.
No.
Yes.
That is for me criminal.
There's
no way. That's criminal. That is totally criminal.
It is.
It should never be happening with an iconic species such as this. It gives so much enjoyment, pleasure, and so much to the economy. To do that is criminal.
I think this is what's causing this sporadic runs, because at some stages they can be held in a lade beyond their use by date. They should be out at sea. So this could be what's making the runs sporadic. But the over abstraction on there is horrendous, and it's frightening to watch every year. It's sad.
What about the main river, Tony? Because I mean, the Mighty Tay, it's big, you know. Is there any sort of water issues, pollution, abstraction, that type of thing? Do you see any problems associated with that?
My biggest one's hydro.
Okay,
Like the Perthshire Dam
right,
has a huge effect on, I think, catches.
okay,
And that when they release water, as soon as that water hits where you're fishing, it just puts the fish right off the take.
Cool.
Is that because the water's coming from the bottom of the dam?
Yeah.
Tony, aye, yeah.
So you're getting stagnant water.
Yes, yes.
That's the only thing.
Yeah.
I take the water temperature twice a day, and I used to take it as soon as that rise would hit us. And you can't pick up a temperature difference, or I couldn't anyway, just for mercury, like, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
you could if you're using electric or something. But it just kills the fish.
Yeah.
Absolutely kills it. Stone
Yeah,
dead.
I've seen it on Ghillie, exactly
Yeah.
the same. Exactly
And
the
then
same.
the same when you get a lion fresher,
Yeah,
which you get, I can't remember, is it from April till October, you get a lion fresher every week.
okay.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Just
something
explain
like that.
that a wee bit more
So-
for the
so-
folk that don't know.
So a fresher, seemingly when the dam was put in there, they had to guarantee water,
Yes.
like a false flood or something,
Yeah.
to draw the fish out of the main stem into the lion. So that was way back when that dam was put in, I think in the 50s, I think. And they release water, it runs for I think 12 hours, something along those lines. So they'll do like a false spey,
Sure.
and seemingly when the lion gets that, it fishes its socks off. But when it hits us, and you'll see it in here, Callum, it's usually
Yeah.
later at night,
Yeah.
or in the evening, it just kills the fish.
Just fish right
You
off.
could be catching fish, bang, 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 and then this hits. What's happened?
Yeah.
Oh, it's rising.
That's it.
You know?
Aye.
And aye. But it kills it the following day as well.
Yeah.
Because it drops back so
it gets
fast.
back, aye. Because that water's coming out of there, there's not much oxygen
Yeah,
in it,
that's
so
right.
it's
Yeah.
really stagnant,
Yeah,
stale
yeah,
water. Yeah.
yeah.
What about you, Sandy?
We
You're
have kind of
in
similar problem. We have the hydro board very active, and it's fairly predictable, but being predictable doesn't help us anyway. You'll find if you have a wee bit tourist run up at Loch Earn that it is unnaturally high even in times of drought. They hold the money back there by altering the rate of the lower dam on Loch Earn, and it's money in the bank to them, because if there is a demand for the national grid, a royal wedding, big sporting events, Olympics and this and that, and they know that the public is going to be looking at that, and they'll have a cup of tea at half time, and the national grid will contact them and say, we anticipate a demand here and then. They say, can you oblige? And say, absolutely no problem at all. And they take the phone call with one phone and they're booking a fortnight in Bermuda with the other. And you know perfectly well that you'll go in the morning and all of a sudden you're running an ice height and whoop, because they're impounded.
Yes.
And then of course the other side of that is that when you don't want it, down it comes and
Yeah.
it scunners you entirely.
Yeah,
And if you have nice conditions and people getting fish and the week and this and whatever event occurs, you can say, very sorry gentlemen, I'm really fishing 2-3 days time, but you know, if you have something better to do, I suggest you go and do that,
Yeah.
because you get hee-haw in the meantime.
Yeah.
We've met with them, they're courteous and approachable and all the rest of it, but the answer is no, we're empowered to do that, we can do that, I'm very sorry gents, but no deal.
Yeah. Nice.
Turbines on most workers be of an Archimedes great
Oh,
turbine
aye.
that our smokes have to try and negotiate.
With difficulty.
Now, I'm more concerned about the adults that drop down the lake
Yeah.
and they'll probably get chopped up in the
Yeah.
turbine.
Yeah.
Juveniles, they say they can cope with it.
They say, but at the end of the day, do they really know? There's been enough research done on that, don't they? So I think, I mean, right at this moment, we know for a fact that we need every single smoke to the sea. So
Every
the
smoke's
shepherd,
precious, yeah.
absolutely, they're like lumps of gold in that.
Oh, yes.
That's the way I see it. I've always seen it in the last 20 years.
Well, the north and south east used to ban fishing of any nature when the slopes were not
Yeah,
migrating.
absolutely.
Because the
Yeah.
dams, and you sometimes see an adult coming back having been out to sea and put on a lot of pounds, and it's got a misshapen jaw,
Yeah,
which is
that's it,
something
Sound
fly.
No doubt about it.
Yeah. Smokes are, when you see these vast shows of smokes, certainly leave the area. It's well worth seeing.
Yeah.
And yet you lose them down the water, of course.
It's awful.
It's shocking.
So is there anything, I mean, thinking about that, is there any way that you could possibly maybe net them and take them past that water
No,
problem area?
It's been discussed. In an ideal world, we'd have proper laid gates, we'd have a smoke screen on it and deflecting, and water, of course, to take them down the
Yes.
main body there. But if you're over abstracting, you could potentially trap smoke anywhere
Yes.
in the main body of the river if the water's going down one way when it should be going down. So we need to, we're working on it.
Yeah.
We are working on it.
Yeah.
Watch this
Well,
space.
good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear that. When it comes to catching salmon, I got my very first salmon from a worm, Tony. Cracking method of catching fish. Toby
was the first one.
To be or not to be?
Yeah.
See
This
what
is
I
the
told
question.
March the 15th, 1975.
Well, interesting, 1975 was my first one in the Spey and on the fly, but I got my first one in 1971 on the Yugi, on the worm. Total luck, absolute luck, just chucked it in, hopes for the best. That was it. Aye. So, speaking about these lures and different things, in your opinion, I know the fly only thing we talked about, but if you were fishing the fly, Tony, and you had only 3 flies to put in your box, come on, man, come on, let the cat out of the bag and no lying, because I know you've lied so much about this before.
Gee whiz.
I'm bound to catch a link with this.
I'd need 5.
You'd need 5.
I'd need 5, yeah. I'd need 5. I'd need 5. The Ghillie.
Yeah, that's your famous one. Yeah, that's it. You got him in there. That's. I don't know what's your name. A fish come up and jump in the window.
Keep that there, yeah. Sometimes there's other ones in there, but I didn't open it. So the Ghillie Willie gun.
Yeah, a good old
is
favourite.
got to be there. A fly I have called the Hellraiser, which I've talked about a lot, but not many people have seen it. Sandy Smith. Sandy Smith.
Aye.
Yeah.
He's seen it.
He's seen it. You
probably know. Remember it?
No, because he took it out. He took it out to 5 fish one morning. But
the Hellraiser.
The Hellraiser. I've got another one which I don't know I should really talk about.
Come on,
the MYOFB.
The MYOFB, which stands for?
I'm not going to say it. And then the Executioner.
The Executioner.
Aye.
I got my biggest one in an Executioner, biggest UK fish. Number 8 Executioner.
Great fly.
Really good fly.
Yeah.
It's tied originated by Bob Johnston.
Yeah.
Yep, Easter Elkies.
Yeah.
Tied by his daughter. Aye.
Well, did it come off the, what's the fly, if you go back, the old flies up there, was it not a Pit Croy Fancy?
Pit Croy Fancy, aye.
And that's what the Executioners
it's
come
pretty
similar.
much like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't quite the same, but it definitely came from that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
Yeah. How about yourself,
Oh,
Grant? 3 flies. What would
3
you say?
flies.
Come on,
Well,
give
I
folk a
tried my
chance.
yellow fly for the spring.
Oh, aye.
And it works really well for me. And
Tube fly or just
it's a tube,
Aye,
a
okay.
copper tube, fished off an intermediate.
Aye.
And it all came about because people used to catch salmon on yellow flying seas. So I fish it square.
Aye.
And That's right. And the other ones are Tony's flies.
Everybody's fishing to
Ghillies. Gilly fly. I've had some big fish on the Gilly fly.
Oh, everybody's in big fish.
I know. It's a good fly.
Sandy, what about you?
I suppose you can't go wrong with a willy gun in its various forms.
Yeah.
A stoat's tail and a sunray.
Aye.
And if you'll allow me to have another, maybe a hitch in its various
Yeah.
forms. I do have somewhere, and you probably want to censor this, a box of flies which I've mislaid, but I hope to find, and some of them have different colours of wings. Some of them are black coloured, and some are blonde, and there's a bit of red as well. Now, quite successful, but may I mention I had great fun gathering these materials over a number of years, and I keep them very much to myself.
It's brilliant.
Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely
Brilliant. Yeah.
Yep. Well, my selection would be very much the same as yourself. Executioner, Wally gun, and I do like the sunray shadow.
It stirs them up.
It definitely does. But the hitch fly, and interesting you said the hitch, Sandy, because I didn't see so many people fishing hitch, but I fished it for a lot of years, I have to say.
It sometimes does the trick.
Oh, aye.
Good on slower rivers.
Aye.
They used it a lot in the Isla.
Okay.
Between the Tay and the River Isla. Microtubes
Right.
on a hitch. Just stick them
Yeah.
quick, and it's amazing when you see it coming up behind. It worked very well. Yeah. It's one at the back that usually comes forward and takes the fly, not the one at the front.
Aye. What about droppers, guys? Do you ever fish a dropper?
Oh,
In a big river like this?
Oh, the implement of the devil.
The implement of doom.
Aye. On the Spey, yeah. Always.
Aye.
In the evening.
I hated it, don't I?
In the evening.
Well, you know why I'm going to hate it, because as a gilly, there's nothing worse than waiting for a fish to come to the net and this thing trailing about behind it. And after people that were taking the fish to the net hadn't a clue who to take it to the net.
Yeah.
God. No, I didn't
I
like it.
fished it on Tony's beat one day. I got out from you.
That's
And
right.
I double hookup.
Is that right?
I lost both of them.
When the gills was coming in thick,
Oh, you can't just imagine.
that island pulling in, you used to watch them. I used to watch them following the fly around, and then if you had somebody with a dropper and you'd see this string of gills coming down following, you go, jeez, just one of yous take, you know. Yeah, I've seen two take a few times.
So it's a big river, guys. Fishing it in general. There's quite a lot with the Scandi methods of fishing now. Are you in favour of the square casting, stripping, speeding the fly up, Grant?
Depends on water temperature.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've seen you going, one of the other favourite flies, Gary Dog.
Yes.
It's a blended wing.
Aye.
So it's red.
Aye.
And I would fish that on a mute rod.
Mm-hmm.
And it works really well in the warmer water. But Scandi lines, the awkward integrated ones are doing now, you know, it's
They're
lots of
much
that.
better. Yep.
But I like the shooting heads and Scandi methods.
Yep.
Just cross it down.
Fishing fairly
Feel
fast.
far. Always
Aye.
figure it
Aye.
Never
Yep.
stop
Yep.
moving it.
This is all good stuff for youngsters looking at this.
Yeah.
This is all good stuff because it's all methods that sometimes people are sort of guarded about their methods, and people look at least at this video, I think, and they're looking for you guys that are real experts on it, you know. So they're looking to get a wee tip or two out of it. I'm not going to stories he'll just tell total rubbish. So Sandy,
We're a smaller river, but big enough at times,
Yeah.
and there's no doubt that modern tackle that surpasses anything that we used to have. You go back to the stuff we used to use, and it's heavy and cumbersome, and you're limited in what you can do, but you can do anything. And you get guys who may be new to the sport, and with a bit of coaching, they're more than competent. And it allows you to try different things. I mentioned the collie dog before, and when you're stuck and not much happening, I mind one day last season, this nice old chap, and he was not in the first flush of youth and a bit he found it very difficult, so that I said, there's a fish lies exactly there, and if you hang around you'll see it. And I said, have you ever tried a collie dog? I don't do that. I said, well look, and I showed him, now throw it up, let it sink now. Oh, yeah, that's ridiculous. He said, well, do it, please. Anyway, I left him to do that, and I went to see somebody else, and half a mile on the phone went, help, help. 2 or 3 times it was like John. He got this fish, beautiful fish. He said, oh, I'm tackle frequently. He'd have never had a go, but he did the right tackle to do it, and that sometimes he said it came along with service like that. It didn't. Really made my day.
The kit we have now is just
So much better. Totally.
from double paper.
Yeah.
It's just magic.
Kingfisher lines and green rods, cane rods and
I remember the first plastic line I seen. It was on my grandfather being a ghillie before me. Used to get given like we do now. You get given stuff from various manufacturers, and my grandfather had been given this new plastic coated floating fly line. Anyway, I had a little fly reel and I fancied I'd have some of this plastic fly line, so I cut it in half.
That was popular.
Well, my grandfather, he wasn't the best pleased, but he never ever really told me off. He would just say, no, you mustn't do that. I was maybe like a golden child or something. But the modern lines are just amazing.
It's incredible.
the outward bound that
Oh,
makers.
them all. There's
Excellent.
There's hardly a bad line out there now, you know. Whereas you go way back, you had maybe one or two that get good.
For sure. I think that been involved in that kind of tackle stuff myself. It goes back to the 90s, I think, was kind of where it all changed. When the Lee Wolf came in, as a spey line, and that was an eye opener.
And then that chap came out with that carbon line.
Oh, that was a proper line. That's still a proper line.
I've still got a dozen of them.
Aye. Funnily enough, I was speaking to the manufacturer of that yesterday. 2 days back, and I said, "Can you make me one?" This is all we have to do with it. So I have one or two made up, but they are really good. Really good. And that just came from understanding physics of casting and just putting the weight in the right place and the way it went. You know? So no, it has. It's made fishing so much easier, I think, for people. You know, generally speaking, you can take youngsters on this nice short-headed line now, and you can have them casting